Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, welcome back to another Alternative Factuals video. Yes, it's been a little bit of time, but I'm back with another banger. A lot has been going on in my life, so I'm not going to spend too much time kind of talking about it, but I have some things that obviously I've been sharing with you guys just because I want to support and show that I create other content for, people of color, black people, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'll share it as, things come up. But before I do anything, please be sure to like, share, and of course, subscribe to make sure you don't miss content like this. And yes, we're still going to cover Bitterroot. Just my schedule had got changed a little bit, so I'm trying to adjust for the time being. But without further ado, let's kind of just dive into today's video. So you're looking at the title right now, and of course, you're probably thinking, Chadwick Boseman replacement. Are you referring to the fact that his sister's going to become the Black Panther? Well, maybe. Who knows? But in this case, I'm talking about the White Tiger. Now, some of you probably may or may not know who he is. That's perfectly fine. That's why I'm here, to help educate and uplift and, ascend your mind to the fifth dimension. So I'm going to dive into who the White Tiger is. Now, there's several iterations of the White Tiger, but there's one specifically that I want to focus on, and that is the third White Tiger, Casper Cole. And he's very interesting because, believe it or not, he was a police officer who was mixed with Jewish and African American heritage, so it was kind of out of control. But essentially, he was someone who impersonated the Black Panther when he found one of T'Challa's suits kind of laying around, because at this point in which this story takes place, when he first found T'Challa's suit, this is when T'Challa was actually functioning out of New York for a short period of time. So we do know that he found this suit and then kind of was masking around as Black Panther. Now, Black Panther did have multiple suits that were made out of vibranium. Not all of them were black. Some of them are actually white. I think some of the white ones were more of like the ceremonial kind of, versions of it, depending on, I guess, the story, and as well as some of the video games where he pops in, like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. His white suit, I think, was like more of a ceremonial thing, but I'm not going to get into details about that. But ultimately, he was advised by Sam Wilson himself that instead of just being someone in a cat suit, he needed to kind of set out and achieve a goal. So his goal was Casper Cole sought to eat the heart-shaped herb and to kind of get the enhanced powers of T'Challa. Now, for those of you who are aware or kind of understanding what the heart-shaped herb does, for the most part, it's pretty much toxic to pretty much anyone who is not a part of the royal family. So, and when it comes to that regard, that was not a good idea. But the villainous Eric Killmonger, yes, the Killmonger who we already know exists in the MCU already, who potentially could be resurrected, actually offered him a synthetic version of the heart-shaped herb, which essentially gave him the powers of Black Panther. And with the abilities of Black Panther, with the white Black Panther kind of suit and all that stuff, essentially he took on the role of the White Panther, the White Tiger. Now, I'm not going to dive into the whole purpose of Eric Killmonger and the whole him possibly getting a favor redeemed by him, so I'm just going to dive specifically into the character of Casper Cole himself. So the reason I think Casper Cole could be someone who could either replace T'Challa or actually pop up in the MCU as a potential replacement later on down the line is, one, he does have essentially T'Challa's powers, and two, Killmonger exists within the MCU. Now, we established that Killmonger was someone who was aware of essentially what Wakanda was and the vibranium, and essentially all the advancements that they had, simply because his father in the MCU told him all that stuff. He pretty much was well aware of how to possibly get into Wakanda, what Wakanda had, and even the whole heart-shaped herb, and the whole fact that only the royal family can actually take the herb and survive and get the powers of the Black Panther and get the connection to Bast. Now, what makes him extremely relevant is for a couple reasons. One, technically he functions out of New York City, so that would make him more relevant towards the Avengers and operating more or less out of New York City instead of Wakanda, which is extremely far. And then two, he does have ties to Killmonger, meaning he still would have some sort of ties to the Wakandan family, being that either they can make him in the movie, for example, maybe he's related to Killmonger, maybe he's Killmonger's cousin or something like that, and then, they have ties to the family, or just someone who maybe could have been in Wakanda himself and then could have been his distant cousin or something like that. We don't know what route they can take. I'm just giving an example. But ultimately, it does leave an option for Marvel, for Disney, to be able to kind of push him into the main light and kind of use him as a character that's a lot more relatable, someone who's of African American descent, even though he is part Jewish in the comic books, but also being able to tell a story where he's not just someone who's of royalty, but he's someone who pretty much grew up like me and you in the streets, not necessarily in the streets homeless, but in the regular everyday life of being black, and then experiencing life and then becoming a hero, focusing on the things that they need to focus on. Because let's be honest, even though T'Challa wanted to focus more on helping people, he still has a lot of bias against a lot of people who live in America who are black, because remember, they were never conquered, so they never had, I wouldn't say the luxury, but they never had that opportunity to see themselves any less than what they really were. Unlike us, when we came over here during slavery, so a lot of our mentalities, a lot of the habits, a lot of the things that we have were beat into us, and we have experienced as a race a massive amount of trauma, which in some cases can be very detrimental to our progression as a group of people. Rather than in Wakanda, they never experienced that, so they'll see us in a certain kind of light that they don't understand. Rather than imagine having Casper Cole, for example, someone who possibly was born and raised here, or maybe spent most of his life here, knowing that the experience is very much different than it is in Wakanda, maybe, or maybe he's just, like I said, grew up here, and then having the experience of living in America, living in New York, knowing how it is to experience prejudice, racism, people have certain opinions and biases against you. It kind of makes a difference as a hero, because his motivations of being a superhero or of being the best version of himself, the motivations of it are very much different compared to what T'Challa would do, because his goal, I think, more or less was more worldwide. Once he did open his borders, he did station things across I think the United States at first, but ultimately I'm pretty sure he did expand out and then put these stations all over the world. But his vision was more or less for the planet, rather than Casper Cole would be more towards the specifics of being a black man in America, being a hero, someone who by definition in terms of physicality and powers would be an equal to T'Challa. So that's something I think would be really cool, especially because one, there's multiple variations of White Tiger. One of them, if you've seen the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show cartoon that was on Disney, one of them, I think her name is Angela, or it might be, I forget her name, honestly, to be completely honest. It might be Ava, actually. Ava. She was the fifth White Tiger, and I believe her powers came from like an amulet or something like that. But ultimately, it would be really dope to see a character like this where physically he is T'Challa's equal, he'll be black, and maybe someone who was more comfortable or more native to the more American experience, or maybe being a African American in the superhero community who has the powers of Black Panther, maybe not the same intelligence, maybe not the same resources, but nonetheless still having the ability to be that beacon, be that hero for people of color, and still kind of getting that Black Panther-esque kind of person while he was a police officer, meaning he would be like someone who's like a detective almost, someone who does both focus on more of a street level and being able to solve mysteries and figure things out and kind of take care of the people, much like I guess Luke Cage, minus the fact that he's not a hero for hire per se, even though they do run into each other. But that's a whole situation for a whole nother day. But let me know in the comments down below, would you be interested in seeing White Tiger in the MCU? Do you think he could be a possible replacement for Chadwick Boseman's, rest in peace, Black Panther? Maybe he's someone who can help run Wakanda in terms of the whole superhero escapades after the snap. We'll see how things go. Let me know in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, like, share, subscribe, and stick around, because like I said, I will be covering Bitterroot as well, and obviously I want to share my other content with you guys, because I am more than just one type of creator. So I'll see y'all next time. Peace.